I wish I'd spent more time over the past
I just cut all the
month and a half up here.
lids off.
So what panel are you putting in now?
They were off.
I'm actually just working on the big leads, the soft lead all around. It's going to slip the next panel in.
But up here and over here.
Because we've got the top panel ready, but it needs a little more cutting.
I need to go with you though because
So we're going to alter that. We'll be in in just a minute.
So Caleb,
Okay.
he's a video person. He's just
Good.
I just want to record how tough this was. Now Patrick and Vicky have told me I need two things today for success. One is to let go of my expectations as to how it should be and was before. And two is to let go of my timeline. Yeah, this is my glazing knife. It's got my maiden name on it. And this is the Laskin that JB, he was an artisan in the stained glass shop where I was working. And he's one of the guys that taught me how to do stained glass.
What is that piece used for?
This one?
Yeah.
All kinds of things. Mainly opening the lead. When you're making a window, banging the lead into place, smoothing it. It's very hard wood. And then when you probably saw when Mark was putting the wide lead up out there to install the panels, smooth the lead down. They don't sell these. I mean, the ones you get in the shops are pitiful, plastic little trick to make a couple of these for the school because Elizabeth thinks this should be in the Hippie Museum.
Oh yeah.
Being as it was handed down to me from an artist. Hi, I'm Carolyn, the artist who made Wholeo Dome and donated it to the farm school. I'm making this video to help you keep Wholeo Dome happy and well. I'm in the stained glass shop, it's kind of got a lot of history. It's got his initials on it.
Yeah.
Whoever he was. This has tubing on it where you can put the nails in to hold the panels in place. When I was creating the panels, it's pretty much destroyed now, but again, it's over 30 years old, right? And it's built the whole dome full of panels, so. Here in the Wholeo Dome stained glass studio is a foam tabletop formed from the convex casting of the original concave plastic light tables with the tubing seen before. You'll need some special tools to fix glass panels and conserve Wholeo Dome. Here is a glazing knife, 2 Laskins, and a burnisher, which are some special ones that really help and you will need to get. Okay, so I unloaded my bucket of tools to show you what I'm using here to try and install the Wholeo Dome at the farm. So here's a bunch of pliers. Now these are the most used items of all, needle nose pliers. You start out using them to bend the lead and you end up installing that on the dome. This is glass breakers. Now I probably only use this if I'm going to repair one of these pieces of glass. This one is also glass breakers, a little more versatile pliers. Now these are my main stained glass tools right here. On the one hand, the Latkins, which I don't know how to pronounce because I've only read it in books. One was made in white wood, oak, and I filed it down. This is just mainly to open up the lead and to pound on the lead, bang, 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 to push it into place. And this is another type. It was made by JB, and it's harder wood, and it helps to open up the lead and to push on it, and also to open the cane. So I've asked Patrick to make more of these for the school because Elizabeth believes that these should be in the Hippie Museum. This is something new for me. And used them. And the glazing knife. Now these 3 tools I got from apprentices, from the actual guys in the shop. I started out as a stained glass designer, and then I got real interested in doing glass according to my visions and what I thought the potential of the medium was versus what was being done commercially. So the guys in the shop worked in the medieval European tradition, and they seemed to take great pleasure in teaching this kind of young woman how to do it, and even sharing their tools with her. They make these out of carbon steel, wood, and lead cast, which this I use throughout the process. Even in installation, it's totally valuable, and I'll show you how I will use it. These are handmade out of hardwood. This is oak, and I don't know what this wood is. It's some kind of teak or something that's really hard, but nevertheless, I have worn it down over the years. This has the initials of the guy in the shop who made this. It was his tool, and he gave it to me. So these are my treasures. So this is a glazing knife that they sell in the shop now, and I'll show you how its use is a little different from what was handmade by those things back then. Those were made in the 60s, and this is made in 2004. So I use vice grips for lots of things and pliers for lots of things. This tool I think I got in printmaking, but it's called a burnisher, but it's very useful for prying up lead and flattening things. This tool, it's a common hardware tool, a metal wire clipper, but I use it for cutting lead patches, and I'll show you how I use that. And of course your screwdriver and your utility knife. So these are my kind of basic tools, aside from special tools which I'll show you in this demo. What I wanted to point out just from the beginning is that if you people want to do stained glass on your own, or if you want to help me, you might need to make yourself one of these, and you can examine what the characteristics are. They're a narrow point to get inside the lead and a wide side to open it up, and I'll show you how to use these, but consider making yourself one of these. You can't buy them. What they sell in the shop now is something like that, and it's, well, maybe you could figure out how to use it, but I can't get the functionality that I can get out of this. Okay, so I introduced my tools, and I'm going to show you how I would use these tools, how I do use them to prepare a panel for installing on the dome frame, which is outside the school. So first I look in here to determine what the next panel to work on is. And I've got kind of a little chart showing where all my glass is around here. And I also have another chart showing the order of installation. Now that's on the wall up here. And so I know that I've installed, I've got this installed, these are prepared to install, and these are ready. The next one to install would be number 49. So then I look on this chart to see where number 49 is, and I see that I've taken it away from where it was and I've put it over here because it's one of the worst panels. Now this panel has really suffered during storage, earthquake, and moving from site to site. One of the rondelles is totally broken. Well, some of the students and or farm residents are going to design something to replace this. This is so broken that it had to be taped together, so I'm going to have to probably replace this whole piece of glass. So I'm not going to do that right now. Also, this one can't just lay on my table. It has to have props. So I'm going to pick one that's easy to repair so we can kind of go through the process. This is one of the smaller ones. It's number 74 on the chart, and it has broken glass which is shattered across two narrow. This is a real common break when this moves and people pick it up. the glass often breaks like that, and then we put a piece of lead across there to mask it and to hold putty, which will cement that joint shut. A good way to pick up glass is by the lead lines, and where it's soldered. If you pick it up in between, you'll pull it off the glass. But this one's easy to handle. It's very solid. Okay, so I'll just lay this on the curved table, get my drawings back in order. Now, the first thing to do would be prepare lead strips. This is something that could be done ahead of time. I'll just show you how I do it right now. Lead looks like an H in cross section. See how the glass fits into it on the side with the putty, the solder, and the lap joint? I've got some narrow lead that was used in making these windows. So it's compatible and it's soft and it's easy to work with. When cutting the lead, I should show you cutting it, shouldn't I? This is the glazing knife, and this is also what I use to cut lead with. I can do that right there. I can actually just put this over there. And use your, I'm not going to use your last thing. You usually start with a straight piece of lead, and you want to, I want to cut this end off because I think it's been destroyed, so I'm going to apply pressure straight down and wiggle it so as to keep my heart high. The heart is the middle of the lid. And you see I've got the heart is okay, and I can just lift these flanges and it's okay. So that's one of the main uses of this glazing knife, is to cut your lead. Okay, now I'm going to prepare some patches. And I could use a lot of help doing this because we're going to need a lot of patches because there are a lot of these little breaks in the Wholeo panels. Might be a good idea to open this up with this is the use of the lath pin to open up the lid on either side of it and make it easier to either fit your glass in when you're making a panel, or in this case to just clip off the edges to make patches. So I'm just going to use these wire cutters to cut myself some lead strips. And, this art could be perfected. I haven't done it for 30 years, so it's not going to be perfect, believe me. But it's fun. Okay, so here I've got a strip knife. If I were a helper and just wanting to help out here, I might just do this, put it in the box, and do all 4 edges, and keep them hard, and save these patches for other people to use. In this case now, I'm gonna use the one I prepared to show you how it's used. Probably a good idea to put your tools back together, put your tools away. Polyurethane foam curved tabletops that I made are not standard in stained glass tops, but they really help to work on many panels because the original curved tables are, there are only 2 of them, convex and concave. Okay, so this is about fixing this. I have some sandpaper. There's many things you can use to take off corrosion and prepare lead for soldering. You can use a wire brush or a steel wool, and I've got this sandpaper that plumbers use for joints, and takes off the corrosion and makes the lead easy to solder to. And for the demo, I'm probably not going to do as good a job as I'd usually do in reality, just to give you an idea of the steps you'd have to go through. So in other words, you look at your crack and you file the lead down to that crack and then at least over to the heart of the lead that's holding it. And then I want a little brush, one of these acid brushes is good, to remove the corrosion and get it out of the way, because that will prevent solder from sticking to the joint. And I take my piece of lead that I've prepared. Of course, these are actually multiple breaks, and I probably would use a wider piece on these, but just for today I'm going to show you this, which usually covers most of these breaks. And there's many ways you can do this. You can lift up the lead and try and get it underneath, which disturbs the cement that's under there, or you can just put it on top, or you can make what's called a butt joint and just make it go from one side to the other. That's harder to solder. It's easy to solder when the little lead patch actually overlaps or attaches to some solder that's already there. But this you discover in while you're doing it. Now, you know, each person has their individual kind of ways of doing this, and it's fun to learn, and it's good practice for developing your own windows. Knowing how glass breaks and how lead works to works with the glass is like really good experience for your own design. So if glass is broken, you might have to go to a glass shop to get supplies. Here are Vicky and Carol loading up. Here's a glass held with nails into the glass light table, with starting to put together the pieces of lead and glass, ready to be soldered together into a replacement panel for the dome. The panel on the right has a piece of glass broken, fitted into the neighboring panel to get the shape because it had been lost. Remove the old piece of glass, scraping the putty off, and use that to make a pattern to complete the new piece. To cut out for the lead, you're going to need pattern shears, which have a fat blade which take out enough space to allow for the lead. Here's a piece of heavy manila paper cut with the pattern shears. Here's Patrick using the pattern shears to make a pattern. With a glass cutter, scribe a line around the pattern onto the glass. That line will be used to break the new piece of glass. Here's a new piece of glass, along with the old and the pattern. Remove all loose putty from within the channel of lead. Glazing tool helps. Wrap the lead and putty the same as you would for the glass patch. The panel dries on the tabletop until ready to install in the dome. Good chance to see the coal come out against the other glass. See how the texture is? I wonder how the color is coming out. See, the transparent glass will let you see through it to the outside. I wonder if I could focus on that tree, for example. Yeah, see, it will come into focus and then you come back to the window. And that's the texture of that piece I replaced. don't feel like this is something new for me. You're losing anything by working on these repairs. Okay, I've got a break. I've got a patch over the break. Now I need to solder that patch onto the lead. So I'm going to use a flux, which in this case is a new product. I didn't have this when I did this. I used oleic acid for a flux. This is now some non-toxic, no odor, no smoke, no mess gel, which I think is a lot better. In most cases I use the old medieval stuff, but this flux is a lot less toxic. That's one of the old flux was one of the worst causes of pollution and danger to workers. Now I'm going to need to wash my hands since I'm getting this flux on here. One thing I didn't do, which is a really good idea, is to mark exactly where that cut is here. So when I solder it, I can solder right to that cut. I can center the patch on the cut. Okay. Now I've preheated the soldering iron, and this is also another innovation. I didn't have a thermostat when I did this. I had to judge whether the iron was too hot. If it's too hot, it destroys the lead. If it's not hot enough, it won't melt the solder. A little bit about solder. The solder is basically adds tin to lead. It's 60% tin and 40% lead. Therefore, the flux helps and the heat helps it become one. Make like a glazed joint in ceramics with the lead. So my process is to heat the joint with the soldering iron and let the solder melt and flow into that joint. But I want it to be right in the right place, so I'm going to do this. And this is a small soldering iron, not as strong as the big powerful one that I prefer, but you can do less damage with it. So once the joint is heated up a little bit, feed some soldering in there. Do what you can to hold this patch in place. It's a pretty nice joint. Very nice. Most of mine lately haven't been that good because I'm out of practice. But I think maybe heating up that joint really helps. In other words, you want it to flow underneath the patch. You want it to bond with the lead. And you want a nice little kind of bead to keep it strong. That's probably a really nice one. Given that, we might not have to finish up these other ones, except that the gel is on there. And that once you've put your flux on there, you don't want to leave it too long, because if you come back to that in an hour, your soldering joint won't be as good, because I guess the gel will have interacted with the components and started to corrode. So I'm just going to try and finish this up. didn't use as much flux on this side, and it's not soldering as easily. I just used what was in the brush instead of. Probably smart to use a lot of flux. It's just then you have to clean up a lot of flux, so it's a trade-off. Whoops. Do this end first. You want to do both sides of the patches before you putty. You don't want to put putty on one side and then try and do soldering on the other side, because the putty interferes with the soldering process. I mean fresh putty, not the old putty. Well, that's probably enough for right now. I should have shown. Use a cellulose sponge. I don't know what they used in medieval times, but this has been used since the 60s. A wet cellulose sponge to clean your soldering iron on. And then it should look nice and clean and well tinned, like that. So we're done with that. I can turn the soldering iron, the thermostat off. Done with our patch. Put it back. And we can start putting on this side. Okay, this is Mark at his best, soldering zealously. Yeah! And this is Patrick. Natalie trying to get to his work at home. Let's see how that looks. So
we got
if
a soldering gun.
you're gonna
On.
unsolder this one. This one you're gonna cut, and then you'll cut both sides and then cut the heart like this. And then this one, you're just gonna cut a little inside the red.
Okay.
Like right there.
Have we got, we've got the lead knife. Have we got,
Burnisher?
I was thinking of pliers, but a burnisher would be good too.
Yeah, okay, burnisher, and then I'll look at one of the needle nose pliers,
Okay.
because you'll need that.
Yeah. That's what
So
I
you
was
gotta, and then you can use this rag to wipe the solder off.
thinking. Okay.
But I found that darn, be sure to wipe the tip off a lot, because it gets stuff off the old lid, and pretty soon it won't solder very well. Because right now you've got a nice tin on there, but see, this side is not tinned very well. It's because there's so much junk on it. And to get a good solder, you have to have this nice tinned iron. Okay.
Very well.
Looks like he's got this almost worked out.
One side is loose, so I gotta get the other side, and maybe at the very back. Get
So
it at the
that's
back.
cut number 14, copper wire for ties. In the middle, flux and solder, a tinned bead for soldering the leads to joints in the panel. Glazing compound. It has to be an exterior grade glazing compound. And then this is whiting, which is the same thing that's in your vitamins. It's I forgot what it is, but you can read it on can. But I bought this at the stained glass shop. Doesn't matter before we turn it back to the other side. So we clean off the flux and get some putty. We're not going to put any putty back, so we can take a glob and then close the putty can well. This stuff dries out. It's pretty dry anyway, but it dries out really fast. You don't want it too liquid because it has to hold its shape. But it's cheap, so we don't have to worry too much about using up a lot. Another nice thing about this heavy glazing knife, you can use it as a hammer. So it's your half glazing knife will do stained glass work type thing. Okay, so now I'm going to force this in underneath the lead patch, and also hope that it goes down underneath that lead patch and into the crack of the glass to actually bond that joint together. So although I'm not replacing the glass, because I don't have any glass like it, and if I did, I would be at risk of breaking everything around it. So I'm just throwing the patch across. I'm still providing support for a good cement putty of that joint. And I'm going to do this one too, and just kind of redoing it forces that underneath there. I'll take off the excess with here's another task that someone who just has 15 minutes could do for me. You could come in here, take some of these popsicle sticks and get a utility knife, or you could even use your trusty glazing knife if you wanted, and just sharpen me some putty sticks. In other words, this will help clean the glass. You can use this right up to the very end to clean corners in the get the putty and dirt out from the corners of your joints of lead surrounding your stained glass. It doesn't yet, it's strong enough to do this cleaning. So we'll just clean this roughly and do the same to the other side. So in other words, in a regular shop, you just have, with flat glass, you just have your regular table, but having curved panels, I have to always go from the concave to the convex to keep the shape of my panel. See, this is used putty, this is my new, so I gotta just keep those separate there. Concave table. And find a good spot. Maybe use some fresh putty. And I want to make sure I've got good support of this before I start pressing on it so I don't break more glass. I always have to be aware of the fragility of this medium that has this wonderful color and transparency. But of course, now that you know how to fix the joints, you can realize if you throw a small lead across a bright colored piece of glass, it doesn't really change the design very much. And you've just fixed the weakest point in the glass, which is a good thing. So after putting putty on and cleaning it roughly, we're going to use whiting. Now whiting is this white powder, and it will help clean the putty out and also absorb any of that flux that you've left on there. It's absorbent, and then it then dirties your whole shop, but I mean your piece of glass will be nice and clean. So here we go with weighting. Well, this is the last panel, and it's been reborn. See the weighting? That's my vitamins. I ran out of weighting, and it said it was calcium carbonate, so I just used my vitamins. This stuff we really throw away because we've used. And for this you need a brush, which is right here. This is one I found in the supermarket, but you know, traditionally you have your wood brush with bristles sticking out of it. It will work just fine. And we want to kind of finish the edge of the putty, get rid of the extra flux that's been there, and in general finish off our joint here. And you know, since this is so small, maybe I could just take this weighting and put it on the other side. I guess this is not going to work, but it might. Probably don't have enough. I don't know. I want to get this dome up, so I'm maybe doing a little quick here, but you get the idea. You need the weighting on there. You need to polish it with the brush. And then continue with your wooden sticks to clean your joint and make it ready to install. Now we have to, you can use dust busters. The back of the panel, it would be useful. Now this is a task that we could separate out and you could do in your 15 minutes that you can have to come to help me. Somebody could come and just clean this really well, because ready to go up on the dome, because we don't have any lines that we need to preserve. You wouldn't want to use Windex at this time because you'd be dissolving your fresh putty. Now this should dry for a day or more. The longer it can dry, the more permanent it will be, and less likely it is that you'll flex the panel and force that putty out of where you've installed it. So, you know, cleaning glass is like the basic housekeeping task that anybody has to do. In this case, though, the more that you remove of putty and dust and opaque powders or whatever, the clearer that color is going to come through. If anything's left on the glass, it's going to cloud it, and it will have a different appearance than it will if it's all well cleaned. So once it's clean, the rain will probably keep the dome fairly dust-free, and you won't have to worry about it. It would be very good if we could get all that we've done to it, all the putty and whiting and shop dirt and, you know, dust of 22 years in storage, get that all off there. So then I'm going to turn it over and do the other side, and then let it sit on a table for a while. Now that would then be ready to take out, to put on the frame, and that will be our next session. Okay? Okay, this is the next panel to install on the dome, so I'm going to pick it out and take it out. Wow. Wow. So now I have to go get the tools. Wow.
Right? Now we got the tools, we got directions, we got another panel. Now all I have to do is figure out which one we're going to use, how we're going to do it. Hey.
Okay, so I'm going to use my Alaskan as I would in the shop to open up lead, to open up this wide lead, which we've put around each panel in order to fit the next panel in. So I'm just going to make sure that it's big and wide enough to put this glass panel in there. And also make sure that it's tight to the next panel. I can tap this with the... See, this joint is pretty unfinished right here. Do that. Okay. No. No. Yikes, this is hot. This is not fitting. What am I doing wrong? Okay, somehow I've not figured this right. I have to look at my drawings. Okay, so this is panel number... I thought I had panel number 15. Oh, I see. 15A goes in here on top. That's why that's at the wrong angle. So I actually have to get 15A.
There we go.
So I wrote the whole sequence. The whole stack.
You don't drop these. Never.
Now this is number 15A. So I can try and get the wires out of the way. Especially where the wide lead is.
That fits a little better, doesn't it?
So then, when I'm working by myself, I would secure this with some, best I can, before I run around to the other side, with the wires that are here. Just loosely fitting them on the, just so it will sort of hold it in place. And if I can get any lead around there, I'll do that too. Like right now I can see, I feel like this is sitting on here and I've got a wire here, so it's pretty sturdy, so I'll dive for my tool. Better to have two people working on this. Get this one out of the way so it doesn't get broken. And then I can use this tool to lift the lead up. See, it looks, since this has to fit around this strut, it's kind of higher than this one, so it's a problem. it's getting there. Now I need to go inside and see it. Basically just hold it in place, maybe by pinching it a little bit here and there. It's got the wire, it's got this. Probably stay there while I go inside and see if I can fit it in place. So now you're going to have to come on the inside. Okay, so I've put it in place from the outside, and now I'm going to see if I got it in the right place from the inside. I'm looking for black lines. The last time when I took the dome down, I drew black lines around the struts so I'd have an easier time placing them. The first time that I did that, I didn't have the black lines and I had to work with photographs. Just the kind of thing that I have in this box here that I showed you before. Trying to see where each lead line relates to the strut and getting it in exactly the right place. So right now I can see that this line is here. I need to move this over a little bit. And this line is here, it's underneath a little bit. So what's the contradiction there? This one's close. It must have been the way I drew the line, so it's not very exact. So I want to try and fit it up, of course, as close as I can to the next panel. Flatten the leads down. It's just like kind of working all over, gradually trying to fit this thing into place. Now I can get these wire ties a little tighter. The problem is the more times I twist it, the more likely it is that the copper will break. So I don't want to do that a lot. But here's one here. And there's one right here, which has got the other end of it isn't real obvious. It might be buried in there. I might have to get it with the pliers. But if I do this, it'll get more in place. Uh-oh, this broke off. Now, I'm also going to investigate whether we can solder these in place or whether I'll just toss it or I don't know. It's something that happens because it's old. 6 years old. It's 30 years old. Okay, now will that stay there? So the rest caulk light leaks between glass panels and the holes in wide lids that are otherwise hard to fill. Okay, so I need some help removing the color-coded stickers that I put onto these struts. I want to give you a little background on this. When I first put the dome up, I marked the struts with magic markers. There's 9 different lengths of struts coming from. Here is one of 6 5-armed pentagons in the geodesic dome frame. Well, coming from the smallest to here's the smallest one. A second pentagon at a frequency of 6 struts from the first one. To the largest in the middle, which are the red ones. And to aid us in getting the right struts in the right place, I put stickers on this time. The middle path that I followed was to put on aluminum what I call bar coating. In other words, this one, which is now marked with a blue sticker, has a little tiny aluminum band wound around here. I'm mentioning this because that's the only kind of marking that's going to last. If you ever wonder what strut you have, you'll always be able to look at that because they've lasted for 30 years now, so they have a good chance of lasting longer. And not to remove them with this sticker remover. The stickers we want to remove are the ones like this blue one. Its strut has 1 sticker except for the number 7s, I think, which have no sticker. That's how you tell a number 7 is that it has no sticker. There's also stickers on the outside that I used to when I was checking if the struts were in the right place or not, and I don't think they have to be removed unless you can see them from the inside. Like, for instance, this one I can, so I would want to remove that. And you can just use this little scraper, which is how people who use a lot of stickers, for instance, a Lowe's home improvement man would use this kind to remove it. If you can scrape part of it and lift a corner and then peel it off, okay, go ahead. I found that usually the glue is stuck so bad that I have to scrape the whole thing. And I don't want to chisel into the soft aluminum, so and I want to leave a nice strut for people to see when they're looking at the dome. So it's kind of an important cleaning procedure that I need help. Don't ask me how many struts there are in the dome because I haven't counted them lately. So that's the basic thing to remember. Each strut has a sticker that you need to remove. Don't remove the aluminum bands, which are permanent markers, and remove the outside stickers if you can see them from the inside. One more thing to watch for is that if it's close to a wire, it's going to be hard. And some of these wires aren't permanently tied down. So I would have to I might even not be able to even do it with this tool. I might need another tool. But do what you can. But don't damage the wires. That's basically it. Thanks, folks. Okay. About stained glass design. The reason we need to talk about that with respect to Wholeo dome is that two round pieces of glass that are 9.5 inches in diameter, about this big, have gotten broken. They cannot be fixed or even found. They're gone. So there's these two holes right up the top of Wholeo dome. We're looking for some designs from the community that would kind of make the transition from my designs to your farm, and it's kind of fun to think that you could contribute an actual design to panels in this dome. So also you can just consider it as a fun thing to do to design stained glass and consider what's involved. What you want to do is think in pieces of glass, and you're going to draw lines around the glass, but you're going to think of the color of the glass. And to do that, I've gotten you some colored pencils that you can work with.
Go.
So I said, often in stained glass, you're not going to do your design in the finished size, especially if you're doing anything that's bigger than this sheet of paper, say. And our rondelle it's 9.5 inches. This paper is only 8.5 inches. So a good way to do is to make a scale drawing. And if you do your scale a half inch, what am I trying to say? Your scale is going to be 1/2 of the finished size. That would be 4 3/4 inches. So every little mark that you make on here is going to be twice as big in reality. Now that's something that will often happen to you in working with stained glass, that you're going to work in a scaled drawing and you're going to have to think small and imagine big. So this is the circle, and that is half the size of the rondelle that you would make. So you could maybe just, to make it easy on yourself, you could trace this on your piece of paper. And basically you'd be ready to go. And, you might say, well, I'd like to see the farm on here, and you do like that, and you try and put that into pieces of glass, and then you could color it. You say, oh, well, that looks kind of crude. Well, you get another piece of paper out of here. They're serrated, so they're easy to tear out. And you're going to need some backing to work on like this, which you could use these file folders if you want. And you could even do smaller drawings if you want, and just to think about what kind of lines that you'd like to see, or what kind of basic subdivisions you'd like to see in your circle. And have a ball. And then, if you want, when you're done, you can sign this paper and put a date on it. And put it in here. We will return these designs to you, but we'd like to get a collection and see what kind of things people are thinking about, and who knows, maybe your design will be the winning one, or maybe we'll have a final design, like when we get the whole dome installed, it'll be better to see what you'd like to put into there, what you have to relate to with your design. So, you know, maybe you're really interested in stained glass, you want to protrude a panel, well, you might make a final design at that time. We'll see what happens. It's just an ongoing experimental process we have here. And I'd like you to participate. Thanks. Vandals broke this rondel in December 2004. How would you replace it with respect to the rest of Wholeo Dome? Where the wide lead is, so it just has to be like an eighth of an inch. You know, so it'll tuck under that wide lead.
So what do you think about working on the dome?
Okay, so it has to be an 1/8 inch outside.
What I think about it?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Outside
it has
It's a
long.
lot of fun. It's
Yeah, it's not much,
the
but
juiciest project
it's just
farm's
has to
ever
be.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Too bad, because I cut all this. You can see what I.
On the record. Like, I don't know, it was just kind of just coming out. Like, I walked in and he had put easy, all the letters were on the ground. He had just put the words easy, and I wrote love, easy, and then I went away and I came back and somebody had put the 4 blue letters around the butterfly in the center, and I'll.
Remember I showed you how I turned it off last time?
Huh?
I turned it on last time.
So now you're gonna be in.
Here we are,
Here we are.
two of a kind.
Wholeo
This
buddies.
is it. Away we go. Now on forever.
Hey, up and at 'em. Wholeo. Ho ho ho. Wholeo. For more information, see the website wholeo.net, where you can get Caroling's email address. Thanks to all who helped at the farm in Tennessee to make possible this video for the conservation of Wholeo Dome.